you, Dale. That was just magnificent. So now we know, we feel that oneness, right? We're feeling it, the presence of the divine, which is oneness within us, right? How can we not? With that beautiful beat, that beautiful voice, beautiful music. So here we are together, the weekend after Thanksgiving. We're in a time of gratitude and joy, feelings of abundance. Hopefully we're in feelings of abundance. But as we heard in the reading, we don't always feel that way, do we? Did any of you resonate with some of the words that Marty read from Lynn Twist about really feeling conflicted and anxious about resources in our life? We think of abundance as money, and of course, money is a big part of abundance, but abundance is really everything in our life. It is that oneness, it is that love, it is our family relationships, our friendships, our community here at CCL and in other places in our lives. It's all abundance, right? In preparing for this talk today, I looked up the word abundance in the dictionary because I like to look up words. And what does abundance mean? I used to think that abundance was being as rich as I could possibly be so that I never had to worry about money. And I just had so much of it that I could do whatever I wanted. That's what I used to think it meant. When I actually sat down and looked at it in the dictionary, the Cambridge International Dictionary said abundance is having enough and more. So the more is the sticky part, right? More can be the 2.5 billion that Oprah Winfrey has, or it can be, you know, how much I have in my bank account to pay all my bills and maybe a little bit more so that I can enjoy my life. Take my kids and my grandkids to a park or go on a retreat, a spiritual retreat, or maybe take a trip, something we've been planning for a long time. That's what abundance really is. Because in reality, am I ever going to win the lottery or be as rich as Bill Gates or Oprah Winfrey? Probably not. And do I need to be? Well, I really don't. You know, going back to the reading, Lynn Twist says, and by the way, she when she wrote that book, she was a fundraiser. Okay. And I really resonate with her principles in the book because I was a fundraiser. And at the time I first read that book, which was quite a while ago now, I was in ministry school here at CCL, and I was fundraising for conservation work around the world, which is what she talks about a lot. And Marty mentioned her work with the Pachamama Alliance, being a co-founder of that, and the Soul of Money Institute. So her words resonated very deeply with me because I've been in contact with very wealthy people, and I've been in contact with people who didn't have much in their life according to our standards, which mainly are financial, right? In our Western culture, we think of, you know, having enough as being having enough money, but it's really a much larger and more expansive perspective than that. And that's what I want to talk about today. Because we can be as wealthy as we can be and not be happy and not be in alignment with the abundance that is flowing through our life. And we can be almost penniless and be happy and be grateful and feel that we have everything we need in our life. And Lynn Twist refers to that as sufficiency. So that's another word for abundance, really. Sufficiency means having enough. And she talks about having met with the Achuar people in the Amazonian rainforest, and they were and still are an indigenous people that live off the land, live from the forest resources, and they are a people that live in joy and happiness. And the reason the Pachamama Alliance was founded was because they found the Western world encroaching upon their forest and upon their way of life. And so there were collaborations that were formed and the Pachamama Alliance was created. But their traditional way of life was to live in abundance and to always be in appreciation and always be in gratitude. So, I had an experience. I was a graduate student, and I was in Madagascar for a few months, a summer really, and I was living among people who lived pretty much a subsistence lifestyle. Most of the people there did, not in the city so much, but when you get out into the rural areas where I spent most of my time, people were living at subsistence level. They had dirt floors, they had little thatch huts, and if anybody from our culture would go there, they would say these people are poor, but these people were not poor. And the experiences I had there were that these people were much richer than I ever was living here. And I'll talk about that a little bit later on. But what I want to say here is the 2 months that I was there, I felt such harmony and peace just in my inner soul, because I lived in the rainforest. I had a tent and I lived in the rainforest. And when I did interact with the local people, they were joyful and they were hospitable. And I remember getting back on the plane to come home, and I was really in shock because people were pushing each other and pushing other people's luggage to get the overhead bins. And my whole nervous system was in shock because I had been for 2 months with people who were peaceful and loving and joyful, and they had nothing financially, really, if from our perspective. And that really woke me up. It really woke me up. And then I came back home, and everybody around me seemed so aggressive. And I had never seen that before in our culture, but we are a very forthright people. We really are. I'll use the word forthright. So how can we bring ourselves into a place of abundance with whatever we have, whether it's a large bank account or a small bank account? How can we be in that place of oneness that's in the song and really feel harmony and peace within ourselves and spread that out to others in our life? Because that's really what abundance is about. And Lynn Twist in her book gives 3 principles for sufficiency, which is abundance, right? And the first one is really to look at the flow of resources in our life. And she really equates money to water, because water flows, right? If you have a glass of water and you spill it, it flows and it moves. Rivers move, the oceans move with the tides. And money does that too. Resources do that. Everything moves, right? So if we can take a moment and really look at the flow of resources in our life, or specifically the flow of money, where is money coming from in my life? Is it coming from a place that's meaningful to me? Is it making a difference in my values and what I hold dear in my life? Or am I working in a job or living a lifestyle that is just paying the bills and is causing stress and worry and anxiety? Just looking at where things come from. And then where does the money go to in my life? Of course, it supports me. I need to pay my bills. I need to buy food. I need to pay for my car. In our world here, we need cars. Any excess that I might have, where is that going? Am I giving money as an expression of the inner values that I hold dear, whether it's, helping hungry people in the world, helping the homeless, supporting the environment and people out there who are trying to preserve it? There are so many good causes, but how am I living my life, and what am I doing with that flow of resources that is coming through me? Because if we look at money, it's really just energy flowing through me. Lynn Twist talks in her book about the origin of money, how it was invented 3,000 years ago, and it was a substitute for an exchange of our time and our energy, right? Our resources. Today, it's really just an idea. It's we have cryptocurrency, we have digital money. So it's a bunch of ones and zeros going through computers. But really, when we look at the essence of money, it's our energy. It's flowing through our lives. It's coming into our life and it's moving out of our life. So what are we doing with that? Are we bringing meaning into our lives? And are we sharing that meaning, the values that we hold dear? Are we sharing it with everyone else? And that's a form of abundance. That's a form of abundance. I worked for about 22 years in the environmental field. And, I had a good salary, but not a great salary, because in nonprofits, there's not the kind of money that exists in corporate salaries. But I felt fulfilled. I was supporting work, and I was working with people that were out there in the field, in the conservation fields in many other countries around the world, making a difference to our planet, to wildlife, to forests, to waterways and coral reefs. And that was meaningful to me. When I came home at night, I was exhausted, but I always felt good about what I did. And I did that for a long time. So I will ask you today, in terms of abundance in your life, where are your resources coming from? Do they give meaning to your life? And where are they going to? Are you sharing them with your community, with values and principles that you hold dear? Because that's a part of what Lynn Twist calls sufficiency, and we call abundance, the same thing, right? So that's the first one of her principles. The second one, appreciation. We all know how to appreciate, right? Because we talk about that here all the time. We talk about gratitude, being grateful, and especially at this time of year, at Thanksgiving, we're grateful for our lives. We are grateful for the food on our table. We are grateful for each other. But what is appreciation? I looked that word up too. Appreciation has a twofold meaning. And the first meaning in the dictionary is to give value or worth to something. So if I appreciate you, I value you. So do we think about what we appreciate in this world? Do we appreciate each other? Do we appreciate the resources coming into our lives? Or do we feel resentment and anger that I don't make enough money, or this whatever is not coming to me, or I didn't get that job, or whatever it is? Being in a place of positive thoughts and positive energies. And we know, especially those of us who have taken foundations class, we know that if we're in a place of appreciation, we're forming mental ideas about ourselves, about the way the universe works, and about life. And when we're in that positive place, beautiful things manifest for us. Life unfolds beautifully. But we're in a place of negativity, if we're sad or unhappy, if we're angry, we'll manifest more of that, because the universe is always abundant. There is always abundance, right? There's never lack. And we might think that there's lack, because we might think that, oh, I don't have enough money to pay my bills. But actually, we're getting an abundance of lack. So there is abundance. If we're thinking lack, we can manifest lack. But if we think prosperity and abundance, we think sufficiency, if we think love and gratitude and appreciation, and if we can live in that place and remind ourselves throughout the day, every day, I appreciate my life, I appreciate you, I appreciate what's flowing through my life, the energy and the resources and the money flowing like water through my life. If I appreciate that, I can manifest more positive things in my life. Because as we appreciate, prosperity grows. I had an experience of appreciation yesterday, and then again this morning it happened. I work on Saturdays at a farm, and there's 33 equines on this farm. And most of them are horses, but there are also, there's some mules and some donkeys. There's also a few goats and a pig and lots of chickens. But I mainly take care of the equines. And I was doing my work, and one of the women who comes there and rides on Saturdays stopped me, and she said to me, I really appreciate your being here. And I was kind of floored for a moment, because I've said hello to her, but we've never had a conversation. And she spent about 5 minutes telling me how much she appreciates my presence there on the farm. She said, you're here every week and you're so calm and you're so peaceful and you bring a very stabilizing energy here. And I just really appreciate that. And, she fostered something deep within me because we've never had a conversation and she noticed me. She appreciated me. And in turn, I appreciated even more her personally, but also being able to be on that farm. Had the same experience this morning because I walked into the room and Harmony was in the back there and she gave me an expression of appreciation as well. And this is going back 12 years. The first time she took foundations, and she's taking it now for the 4th time. The first time she took it, I apparently was co-facilitating the class, and I had written some comments on treatments she had done and whatnot. And she was telling me that this week she was reviewing them, and she was so grateful for my input into her spiritual development. And of course, I don't remember that, but here I walked into this room and right away I'm met with appreciation. And I will tell you that I work on appreciation. I have a spiritual practice where I work to manifest positive things in my life. So it's happening, and it happens just in abundance in my relationships and in many other ways as well. The third way that Lynn Twist is talking about us living a life of sufficiency or abundance is in community. And what she says is that community fosters growth. Now, we all know that. We're all here today because we love each other. We love CCL. We love this community, right? But it's a big part of abundance, isn't it? If we were alone in the world, and I'm sure all of us have experienced the feeling of being alone, right? I grew up in a large family of 7 children, and there were many times that I felt alone. So among this family, and I have a wonderful family, but we all have those feelings, right? No matter what our circumstances. So that's why we're here, isn't it? Because we love each other, we care about each other, and we come here for community. We come here for spiritual sustenance, but that's part of community, isn't it? Yeah. And just briefly, I've been given the nod that it's time to close here, but I just want to tell you a brief story because when I was in Madagascar, and this was in the mid-1990s, I had an experience, and this was before I realized that I was on a spiritual path and that I was a spiritual being. So I was just in my life doing what I was doing in a very meaningful way. But I was in a remote village out in the middle of nowhere in southeastern Madagascar, and the lands there are community lands, and they're owned by the people that live in that region, and they have a chief, and they're sort of governed by the chief. He's like the main governing person, I guess. So I was on an expedition looking for endangered lemurs, new populations of lemurs. And I was also working with the trees and the forests at that time. So we went into this area of communal lands, and we went into this very small isolated village. And the protocol there is you don't just go there and go onto land. These are community-owned lands, and you need permission, especially as a foreigner. So my guides, who are all Malagasy people, spoke to the local people and asked for permission from the chief to allow us to go and search for lemurs and just to observe them and to take note of them, the species and whatnot. And we waited in that village for 3 days to get permission. So we just kind of hanging around in the middle of the village, and then we would go back at night to our campground. But one of those days, a young boy came into the village. He was carried into the village, and he had been tending his cattle, and they have these great big horns. And he came in and was carried in on a pallet with a big gash in his thigh, and it was very deep. And fortunately, the doctor in the region was stationed in that village, so there was a clinic there. So here we are hanging out. It was me and my Malagasy guides. There were about 6 of them, my driver and my field guides and whatnot. And the doctor came and invited us to come into the clinic and support them. So of course we did. we actually went into the operating room, not only us, but everyone else who was there in the village at that time went into the operating room and helped the doctor. And, he was pouring like some kind of antiseptic solution on the boy's wounds, and then he's stitching it up. And one of my guides was holding the light for him. And I forget what I was doing something too. And I was kind of in shock because I was thinking to myself, this guy's never going to survive. This boy is going to get an infection, right? I mean, it just didn't look like good surgical technique to me with my Western eyes. The doctor didn't have antibiotics. Fortunately, I was carrying them, so I gave him antibiotics to give to the boy. And then, everybody went home. The next day, the doctor came again and invited us to come and see the boy. And so we went to the boy's house, and the mother was busy cooking, and he's in the kitchen with the mom. And the boy's sitting up in bed. He's bright and vivacious and cheerful. And it just hit me like really like lightning that this boy was supported by the entire community. And that is what was so healing for him. And, the surgical technique and the antibiotics or whatever, yes, they're helpful, but it was the love and the caring and the oneness in that community that really was healing for him. And that was my first introduction to that idea of community. So it's time for me to close. I've just gotten the word, but I want to leave you again with those three principles of really of abundance. And one is to really take time to look at what are the resources in our life, where are they coming from, where are they going to, and what is the energy that we're putting behind whatever we give forth, whether it's our money, our time, our energy, our heart. Just be aware and be conscious of that. Number two, appreciation. Appreciation brings growth, brings love, brings oneness, right? And then the last one, the value of community. Whatever we do, give it to others with our heart and give it according to what we hold dear in our lives. Thank you. So I think I did it in maybe 21 minutes. I'm not sure. I only had 20 minutes. So let's just take a moment to center ourselves, close our eyes. And feel the divine within ourselves. Know that whatever is moving and percolating and growing and flowing through our being is an expression of the divine. Know that that expression is one of love. And merely by our presence, merely by living in alignment of the truth of our inner being, we don't need to do anything, and we can know that. We only need to be in peace and in love and in harmony with that divine within us, knowing that everything, which is abundance, all resources are present right here and right now for us and for all. And so it is.